betrayal, one of the world's most dreaded acts. It could be the line between life and death. Anyone can turn on you regardless of your relationship. It wasn't a tough decision when Mir Jafar betrayed his own country in the Battle of Plassey, 1757, or when Julius Caesar got stabbed 23 times by his own senators. Most times, we have just one party feeling betrayed. But in the early 90s, when the Jaguar XJ220 dropped, both sides left the deal with a bitter taste in their mouth. It was a classic case of expectation versus reality. The Jaguar XJ220 concept wasn't born under ideal conditions. Normally, you would have everyone on the team on board before you go on with a project. But in this case, it was sort of like an unofficial project undertaken by Jaguar's Director of Engineering, Jim Randall, who started the project over Christmas 1987. He made a small cardboard model of a possible racing car. The model was brought to the Jaguar design studio where two full-size models were made. One looked like a Porsche 956 and the other looked like the XJ41 and the XJ13 car. The second design, made by Keith Helfet, was picked because it looked more like a Jaguar. And remember, we said unofficial. Unofficial means no money, and no money means you can only work with volunteers. That is exactly what Randall did. A team of 12 volunteers worked on the project during evenings and weekends. They were called the Saturday Club. Their objective? To make sure the car met FIA racing rules and safety regulations. That wasn't all they achieved, as you would find out in a minute. The FIA Group B rules led to a design with a mid-engine, all-wheel drive layout, using a Jaguar V12 engine. Making the car really didn't cost much. You know, Randall is a top gun in the automobile industry, so it wasn't difficult to get help from suppliers and engineering companies Jaguar had worked with before. In return, he promised to give them public recognition and the chance of future work with Jaguar. And of course, at that point, there wasn't a name for the car yet. The volunteering team was just focused on building something good, but the topic of a name was always going to pop up. When it did, they decided on calling it the XJ220, following the same path as the old XK120 model, which was named after its top speed of 120 miles per hour. The new car was aimed to have a top speed of 220 miles per hour, so it was named XJ220. Like the XJ220, the XK120 was also an aluminium sports car and was the fastest production car in the world when it came out. Body design, car naming, these are all basic problems that could be solved easily. Well, maybe not true for the design, but the real deal was incorporating several components. And that's where the TWR group came in. TWR made several of these racing V12 engines in the 1980s. A 7-litre version was used in the Le Mans winning XJR9. 5 of these engines were still around, all with a dry sump system, which helps lower the car's centre of gravity. One of these engines was chosen for the XJ220 concept and had titanium connecting rods. But there was an issue. Jaguar didn't have much experience with 4-wheel drive systems, as they had only made rear-wheel drive cars before. So Randall, who was kind of the superhero of this project, asked Tony Rolt's company, FF Developments, to design the 4-wheel drive system for the XJ220. Now, who is Tony Rolt? This guy had won the 1953 Le Mans race with Jaguar.
Not content with first place only, another Jaguar was second and another fourth.
And also helped design the 4-wheel drive system for the Jensen FF, the first sports car with such a system. So, yeah, he's the kingpin of this stuff. With over half of their troubles solved, the only components left for the Saturday Club to implement was the chassis and car design. The chassis was made from aluminum, using a special technology called Alcan's Bonded Aluminum Structure Vehicle technology. The design for the outside of the car was simple but functional, similar to classic Jaguar sports cars like the D-Type and E-Type. They didn't use many extra aerodynamic parts, but the shape of the car helped reduce drag and lift at normal road height. Everything was good and fine up to the D-Day. What have you heard about perfect timing, and how often have you seen it occur? There is probably no other phrase that could perfectly describe what happened on the 18th of October 1988. Around 3 a.m., the team completed all works on the XJ220, and we say perfect timing because it was just in time for the British International Motor Show in Birmingham. Jaguar's marketing team had a spot ready for the XJ220 at the motor show but hadn't seen the car until it arrived, at exactly 6 a.m. And finally you get to meet Jaguar's chairman, John Egan. Obviously nothing was going out of the company without his approval. Also, Roger Putnam, who managed Jaguar's racing, saw the car the week before and approved it for the show. The time was drawing near. Moment of truth for the Saturday Club. Was all of their efforts for naught, or was it going to be validated? It wasn't too long before those questions got answered. Tick-tock, and at exactly 11 a.m., the public caught the first glimpse of the car. The XJ220 turned out to be a very impressive car to both the public and the press. How many times do you hear someone wrote a blank check for a car purchase? Many wealthy Jaguar fans wrote blank checks to buy the car if it went into production. To put things into perspective, the XJ220 blew Ferrari's display of their F40 out of the water. An estimated 90,000 extra visitors came to see the XJ220. Although the XJ220 was not meant to be a production car at first. The traction it received during the show spurred Jaguar to do a study to see if they could actually make and sell the car. The results? It was possible to build, and Jaguar would make a lot of money. Subsequent to the research, Jaguar went on to make one of the biggest mistakes in car history, an announcement, one the whole world had been awaiting. On December 20th, 1989, Jaguar announced they would make 220 to 350 cars. It was a great announcement at the time. Many more people wanted the car than there were cars available, with 1,400 customers paying a deposit of £50,000 each. Everything seemed right. The customers were expecting a banger to add to their collection. Jaguar's finances were about to rise tremendously. A winning situation for both sides, but a massive betrayal laid in wait as the Jaguar XJ220 went into production. Jaguar couldn't develop the XJ220 by themselves because their engineers were busy with other models, the XJ and XJS.
The Jaguar XJS is many things.
Instead, they teamed up with TWR, a company they had worked with before to make racing cars. They created a new company, Project XJ220 Limited, to develop and build the XJ220. In mid-1989, a team was set up to handle the engineering and financial planning for the XJ220, working from TWR's workshops. Enter Mike Morton, a guy who had previously worked on the Ford Sierra RS 500 Cosworth and the Ford RS 200 rally car. He was chosen to lead the project. Richard Owen was the chief designer. The team included staff from both Jaguar and TWR, as well as Pete Dodd, who had worked on the original XJ220 concept. The designers who worked on the first XJ220 prototype, Keith Helfet and Nick Hull, also rejoined the project to do more design work. The development team looked at two main competitors, the Ferrari F40 and the Porsche 959. Both cars use small, lightweight engines with turbochargers to get a lot of power. The Ferrari had a 2.9-litre twin-turbo V8 engine with 471 GP, and the Porsche had a 2.9-litre twin-turbo flat-six engine with 444 GP. These engines made the Ferrari and Porsche cars much lighter and smaller than the XJ220 concept. The Ferrari was 600 kilograms lighter and 710 mm shorter, while the Porsche was 250 kilograms lighter and 870 mm shorter. And so the next step towards doom was taken. The production version of the XJ220 used a 3.5-litre twin-turbo V6 engine replacing the V12 from the concept car because it was lighter, smaller, and better for meeting emissions rules. The smaller V6 allowed the car to be shorter and lighter. During testing, removing the catalytic converters and increasing the rev limit made the car even faster, reaching 17.1 miles per hour. Some say this speed is equivalent to 223 miles per hour on a straight road. The Guinness Book of World Records recorded this 217.1 miles per hour run as the fastest speed ever reached by a standard production car. This record was listed in the Guinness Books from 1994 to 1999. However, in other tests, it reached 210.5 miles per hour, which was still very fast but not the highest. The team maintained the same strong aluminum structure as the concept car for its chassis, but a few other features from the concept were dropped in the production model to make it simpler and lighter. These included rear-wheel steering, adjustable suspension, and active aerodynamics. The production XJ220 kept the aluminum body panels from the concept, but Abbey Panels in Coventry made the body shells for the actual cars. They got rid of the scissor doors and made some changes to the design, especially when they shortened the wheelbase by 7.9 inches. Jeff Lawson, the design director at Jaguar, wanted the car to look unmistakably like a Jaguar for it to be successful. Keith Helfert came back to redesign parts of the car, especially because of the shorter wheelbase. They had to make the air intakes bigger to feed the turbocharged engine. These intakes were between the doors and the rear wheels and were larger than those on the concept car. They decided not to use all-wheel drive for a few reasons. They thought rear-wheel drive would be good enough for most situations, and that adding all-wheel drive would make the car more complicated to develop and possibly cause problems for customers. All of this was done and eventually completed in a special factory at Wickham Mill, Bloxham, near Banbury in Oxfordshire. The production version was first shown to the public in October 1991 at the Tokyo Motor Show, and it was unveiled by Princess Diana. A few months later, in the fall of 1991, the first car was available for press review, and things seemed pretty good at first. Andrew Frankel from Autocar was the first journalist to test drive the XJ220. He said the car had savage acceleration, but was not scary to drive. Frankel was impressed by how well the car responded to the gas pedal, how easily the driver could control it, and how smoothly the engine delivered power. John Barker from Performance Car was very impressed with the XJ220's performance, ride, and stability. He liked the V6 engine's sound and how smooth the ride was, even at high speeds. He also praised the engineering, noting that the XJ220 met all the safety standards required for regular cars like a Volvo. Autocar's review said that the XJ220 set a new standard for fast cars. They believed that owners of the XJ220 would enjoy having the best supercar ever made. Gavin Green from Car Magazine in August 1992 also praised the car's comfort and design. Green also said that the XJ220 handled rough roads very well, better than many regular sports cars, not just supercars. And then problems began. Sales of the XJ220 were disappointing. The first customer got their XJ220 in June 1992, and they made about one car per day. Jaguar planned to make up to 350 cars, but stopped production in 1994 after making 281 cars, not all of which sold. The recession and major changes to the production model meant many people who placed deposits couldn't complete their purchases. Rising contract prices added almost £200,000 to the price between 1990 and 1992. In a 1994 comparison test by Car Magazine, testers liked the XJ220's speed, looks, and nice interior. However, they criticized its large size, doors that didn't open wide enough, and poor handling. They found it difficult to drive, with too much understeer at first, followed by sudden oversteer. They were also disappointed by the engine, which sounded bad at idle, like a bucket of rusty nails. Compared to the Bugatti EB110, the XJ220 was less impressive. Testers thought it felt like a marketing gimmick, lacking true quality and unity. Jaguar buyers who wanted to cancel their purchases were offered the chance to buy out of their contracts. By 1995, this led to legal disputes as buyers argued the changes to the car's design made their contracts invalid. However, a judge ruled in Jaguar's favor, confirming the cars matched the contract specifications. The last unsold XJ220S was sold for £127,550 plus VAT in 1997. Jaguar had made a car nobody wanted. In 2009, Evo journalist David Vivian compared the XJ220 to the Lamborghini Murcielago. He noted that the XJ220 could go extremely fast very easily, and said that people might now be more accepting of the change from a V12 to a turbocharged V6 engine. But the deed had already been done. Jaguar didn't make the profits they expected, leaving them feeling betrayed by the public. Similarly, the public didn't get the car they expected, leaving them feeling betrayed by Jaguar. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because we have a lot more stuff coming up.